What's up guys, TCG here, welcome back. Today we're going to do the Banlist prediction video. In about 1 month from now, not only will the Banlist drop, but the game will change completely as the new Master Role will become active and we'll be able to use Synchros, Fusions, and XCs in any of the main monster zones. And according to that, we're going to move forward to a completely new format. So that's why I think Konami will try to pick up from where they left off during the previous ban list, where they tried to nuke the current format. They did a pretty good job, but again, not a new good deck was introduced. We already knew that spirals were going to become a meta threat no matter what Konami did in the previous list. So basically, I think they will try to finish off their job and destroy all the Vrains meta so they can have a fresh new meta. But to be honest, even if they didn't do anything in the next ban list, the game is in a great state right now. So much variety, such a healthy meta game. But again, because they will want to restart the game for the new Master Rule, I think this is going to be the nail in the coffin for all those decks that we've been. But before we begin, don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe to our channel if you want to see more amazing content, and comment down below what are your thoughts for the new upcoming ban list. So let's begin. I do not have anything for the ban section. I don't think any card is ban worthy right now. So let's go straight to the limited section. And the first card is SPYRAL Mission Rescue. I think spirals are in an interesting spot because they're not as powerful as they used to be. Because back in the day, they were a tier 0 deck. You had to play this or anything else would be completely destroyed. Right now, it's in a very healthy state. Magician Souls gave it a huge boost so it can become back and to become a meta threat again. But this time, I think that they don't need to get hit that hard. Rescue is a card that raises the ceiling of the deck because it's not once per turn, so you can bring back monsters from the grave. If Rescue goes to 1, then basically the Tri-Gate lock is completely undoable. You cannot have that many monsters on the field. And again, I don't think Souls is a card that Konami will go after, at least not yet. It's still too early to hit such a new card. So I think Rescue is the best approach to hit the deck. Some claim that Master Plan should get banned. I think that's overkill. That completely destroy the deck. I don't think that'll be the aim for this ban list, is to lower the level of all the meta decks so new decks can rise and power creep them. The next card is Sunlight Wolf. Yeah, I know the argument that if you limit Sunlight Wolf, then you destroy half of its effect. But keep in mind, Zodiac Rat Peer is at 1, Slash Draw is at 1. Konami doesn't care if they destroy half a card's effect by putting it on a limited list. So I don't think that's a valid point on why Sunlight Wolf will not go to 1. And the deck is a budget structure deck. We've seen what the fate of these decks are with Monarchs. But the deck managed to survive a lot. During the previous list, we thought Mirage Talia was going to be a huge hit. Turned out it wasn't. Samlan Great was the only deck out of the decks that got destroyed in the previous list that managed to survive so well and basically still be probably the second best deck, and it managed to win YCS as well. So I think it's time to put an end to this deck. And of course, being part of the Vrains meta, I think it's time to change because the new anime is coming out. I know Rush Duels do not have anything to do with TCG, but I think Konami will want to refresh everything. Following the same logic, Altergeist Meluseek should go to 1, and not because the deck is such a threat right now, it's still a really good deck, and it's been out for such a long time. People were complaining about Sky Strikers being out, a meta deck, for such a long time. Well, keep in mind, Altergeists were out for a month before Sky Strikers were released. So yeah, but the main reason I put Meluseek here is because of the new card, the Altergeist Pukeri. Well, you can use it and any Altergeist on the field to link summon. And by being able to link summon from the hand, that means you can get a Hexia turn 1. Pukeri will go back to your hand, and Meluseek will give you a search. So I think if this card comes out, we don't know where this card will come out, but in case it comes out in Eternity Code, then the deck, if untouched by the next list, it's going to be a really huge problem. And because it's such an old deck, I think Konami will want to make sure that it doesn't take over the meta. The next card is Lunalight Tiger. Lunalights were never that big of a problem, but recently they've just become so much abused. The not being once per turn effects help it spam a lot, and Y-Strix got announced for dual overload, so that's going to make the deck even more crazy because on top of everything it can do right now, it will be able to end on an infinity on the field as well, so that's something to keep in mind. So by limiting Tiger, if your opponent gets rid of it, then there's no way to recover it, so you cannot completely use it throughout the whole game over and over again using Martin and Zephyros. So I think it's a good hit. The next card is Scrap Recycler. Scrap Recycler follows the same logic as when Diva got limited for Silent Mining to be able to be sold because you wouldn't have the budget option. Scrap Recycler is basically the budget option for Girsu because Girsu is a normal summon for all the Orcasts, but Scrap Recycler is a much better normal summon because it gives you access to 2 Sens with Scrap Recycler and Apollosa, while Girsu only gives you a Galatia and an Orcast in the graveyard. And also Scrap Recycler is a card that's being seen in other decks. We've seen it in Spirals as well. So I think it's a good hit because they wanted to promote the new Link, but now that they've sold all the special editions, Scrap Recycler should probably go to 1. The next card is Mystic Mine. Mystic Mine is a card that a lot of people have been complaining ever since it came out. Um, Throughout the whole age of the Mystic Mine era, like when it started, it was such a degenerate card, but then it started to fall off because people saw it coming. But when this happens and the card is removed from the meta, then nobody expects it, then people just start siding it again and they catch people off guard and they get free wins out of that. So that's going to repeat itself over and over and over again until Konami finally decides to hit the card, which they should have done quite immediately, to be honest, because a card that outright wins you the entire game should not exist in this game, and that's why Mystic Mine is a great card to go to 1. People claim that it should be banned. I don't think Konami is going to ban it. But just like in the OCG and putting out 1, I think it's perfectly fine. The next 2 hits are heads up. Heads up for Master Rule, because if Konami doesn't do anything about some cards, then the Master Rule 5 is going to have some degenerate things that we've used to be seeing throughout the whole stage of Yu-Gi-Oh! The first card is Tech Genius Hyper Librarian. You know very well that without the Master Rule 4, by being able to synchro summon anywhere, Librarian in multiple copies means that you can draw your entire deck. We've seen stuff like that in the past in the Master Rule 4 as well with Dangers, but Librarian is going to be so much easier. So I think putting it back to 1 is perfectly fine. Nobody's going to miss it. I'm not saying banning it. No, I'm just saying putting it to 1 for all those synchro decks to be able to use it. Just not being able to draw 3 cards every time you synchro summon. And the same thing, Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Again, hand loops. Omega is at 1, so I think Trishula should go to 1 as well, because being able to summon multiple Trishulas during the same turn in any of the main monster zones, and then using cards like D-Synchro and Omega, then you can easily hand loop your opponents. So I think this should go to 1 as well before the Master Rule comes out. And keep in mind, this ban list is going to be released 1 day before the new Master Rule applies. So I think Konami has its reasons for that. I don't think they would do that so randomly. The next 2 cards I have at 1 are cards that are coming off the list. I'm not exactly sure if these should come out. I think they're fair by this point. I'll talk about them a little bit. The first one is Redox. If any Dragon Ruler should come back, I think it's Redox. Blaster, it's a bit dangerous with Salamangreat. If Salamangreat actually gets hit, like I said, then maybe Blaster could come back as well. But I think Redox's secondary effect is not as relevant anymore. We have so many good revival cards. The actual Monster Reborn card is legal and pretty much nobody plays it. So I think discarding Redox and Another Earth just to get a monster back, I don't think it's that good. And the Attribute does need a little bit of help. And keep in mind the new Aramacia deck is coming out. They might want to make it a little bit better by just bringing back a card like Redox. And the next card is Ultimate Offering. Yes, Ultimate Offering gives you unlimited normal summons, but it's a trap card. The game is not as slow as it used to be when Ultimate Offering got banned. It was like the Machina Gadget deck was abusing it. Right now, I don't think you can do anything. Yes, you can normal summon during your opponent's battle phase, but what's that going to do? So yeah, I think Ultimate Offering is a good card to bring back, and Konami usually likes to bring back 1 or 2 cards off the ban list in every single ban list. So yeah, I think these 2 are the 2 cards that could come out without any problem. Now, the semi-limited section is quite interesting this time. I think the preemptive hits are where this semi-limited section is about, because there are certain decks. Actually, there's one deck that's coming out in Eternico that I think is going to completely change some things, and that's the deck that abuses the Banish Zone, the Nemesis deck. So I think Destiny Hero Malicious should go to 2 again. Konami just do not learn their lesson with this card. Every time Konami puts Malicious back to 3, then something happens and they're forced to put it back to 2. So just leave it to 2 and never bring it back, because the Nemesis deck puts Malicious back from the Banish Zone to keep spamming more monsters, and you get an extra Malicious out. So I think that's going to be a problem if it actually is allowed for Nemesis to be played with 3 copies of Malicious. So I think putting it at 2, and at last, just leave it at 2. There's no reason to bring it back at 3 ever again, because the same thing is going to happen again. History always repeats itself. The next 2 cards are again preemptive hits for MR5. First one is Instant Fusion to 2. mainly because of Millennium Eyes, because some decks right now cannot afford to clog the extra monster zone with Millennium Eyes because they need the extra monster zone to play. But if you can summon Millennium Eyes in any of the monster zones and then play around any hand trap your opponent might have, it's like playing extra copies of Called by the Grave. That is actually a good card going second as well. So I think it's a little bit too much for some decks to handle. So just a 2 to make it a little bit less consistent. Same thing with Super Poly. Again, the exact same reason. Some decks right now cannot afford to run Super Poly because they need the extra monster zone to play. But if you can just fuse your opponent's board away, summon any monster in any of their main monster zones, and then proceed with any of your combos by having the extra monster zone free, again, it's going to be pretty good. And of course, the card is good going first and second because you can use it as a trap because it's a quick play spell. So, yep, I think these 2 cards should go to 2. If they end up being a problem, then maybe they will go to 1, but we'll have to wait and see. But just a heads up play by Konami in order to make sure that the format stays healthy. And I have some cards that could come off the list. Ideally, any of these cards could very easily go to 3 right away, but by Konami standards, they do not like to put cards from 1 to 3 right away. They do this very early. So just for the sake of being accurate, I'm going to put these to 2, but expect any of these. If they come to 2, then next list they're going to be to 3 for sure. The first card is Pantheism. Pantheism is a card that helps Monarchs, and Monarchs have not seen the light of day for such a long time. Aether went back to 3, the deck did nothing. A lot of people love the deck, so I think it's finally time for Konami to completely free the deck, and so we can see some happy faces out there. Pot of Avarice went back to 1 last ban list. The OCG has it at 3. It's not that powerful. It's technically a win more card because it's dead during your early game unless you can do some super combos. So I don't think it's a card that would cause any problems in being more than 1 copies. So yeah, I think to 2 and then to 3. Same thing with Reasoning. Reasoning is an interesting one because the only deck that can see Reasoning and it being a good card right now is Infernoids. We've seen Infernoids top here and there. It's a deck that kind of stays alive for pretty much ever. So yeah, I think Konami might want to put this at 2. And Infernoids is a deck that a lot of their cards do not have a good reprint. Actually, some of the cards don't have any reprints. So when Konami finally decides to reprint the Infernoids in any kind of set, I don't know when, but they'll do it eventually. Reasoning will be a good marketing option so that it can sell by making the deck a little bit more powerful. And the last card is Draco Face Off. As long as Ignister is at 1, I don't see a reason why this card should be at 1. It's a once per turn, so it's not like you can use it multiple times. And with the new Master Rule, the Pendulum archetype, Pendulum engine did not change, so I don't see a reason why Draco Face Off should be at 1. And the Unlimited part is basically bring back the 2 cards that Konami put to 2 during the previous list to try to promote the new archetypes that they have. The first one is Deep Sea Diva. We know that the Deep Sea archetype is coming out in Eternity Code, so Deep Sea Diva is definitely going back to 3. The next ban list, and again, to support the Unchained archetype and the Ignition Assault Special Edition that has Sarama, Turget from the Underworld is definitely going to 3, because you can get any of the level 3 Fiend Unchained from your deck, so they can make the deck a little bit more desirable for the people to want to pick up and actually try it out to see how good it is. So, yep, that's the list, guys. I know it's a big one, but so was the last one, and I think Konami will try to do it again because they did a great job during the last game, but again, no new decks were going to be released, so no matter what they did, the meta would probably stay the same with just a little bit more variety. So this time, it's time to put the end of the road for the Vrains meta. We've seen everything that could possibly come out from the OCG. We've seen that there's nothing new. Pretty much the new cards that are going to get sold, like Girsu or Pukieri, they just have to be careful because decks like Orcust or decks like Altergeist could end up taking over another meta in a new Master Rule. So I don't think Konami will want to have to face that again. So, yep, leave us your thoughts down below, guys. What do you think should get hit? If you have any other suggestions, if you think I missed anything, then we'll be happy to respond and share our opinions to your opinions. So, like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to our channel if you want to see more content, and we'll see you next time.